Hello and welcome to the 125th Brian Hornback Experience. And on 124, I told you that the 2023 city elections were coming up. I told you that the 2024 Knox County elections, because the primary is going to be on March the 5th, is going to wind up getting combined in that. And then what do you know? 125, I'm interviewing a candidate. And I don't think he's officially announced. I think this is where he officially announces. But anyway, without further ado, let me introduce to you, not a Republican, but a Democrat, but that's all right. Because here on the Brian Hornback Experience, I believe in giving everybody who has the backbone, I'll use backbone because I got some people that like for me to watch my language and watch my terminology on the Brian Hornback Experience, to use backbone. But I have Democrats who have no problem coming on the Brian Hornback Experience. But anyway, without further ado, Mr. Keith Britt, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, so I was trying to remember when you and I may have first communicated. I'm sure it was through email or something, but here's what I remember. I remember that you were, that you've been pretty active for several years. I remember that you were active in the Board of Health issue. I remember that you and I shared the same view or wanted the same outcome for the Dry Hollow community in South Knoxville, which we lost. And now for about the last 6 or 8 or maybe the last year, you've been a frequent commenter, not only at County Commission on Public Forum, but you've been going to the school board. And you and I both, well, you first, and then I tag teamed. And then our friend, his name is escaping me at the very moment, but he went about the school board and the whole, they were trying to hire a debt collector to do the unpaid lunches. He ran for mayor, a Democrat primary. He's also got a lot of, he's got some YouTube channels. What's his name? I'm trying to remember.
Tyler Gibbons.
Tyler Gibbons, that's it. And he even did the Brian Hornback Experience when he ran as a Democrat candidate for county mayor. But anyway, so the three of us were the only ones that brought public attention to this debt collector that the school board wanted to hire. And the school board has since scrapped that idea. And a matter of fact, on Thursday, they voted to change their policy to where they're not going to collect debt from kids with unpaid lunch debts. And you know what, Keith? That issue has reared its head up in Jefferson County, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I'll have more about that on thebrianhornback.com. So, you're going to become a candidate for public office, and everybody's, I'm sure, trying to know, is he going to run for school board? Is he going to run for city council? Is he going to run for county commission? Is he going to run for assessor of property? Is he going to run for county law director? Because all those are coming up in 2023 and 2024. So what is Keith Britt, the father of triplets, what's he going to put his hat in?
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate you having me. I will just back up for just a moment. I want to just thank you for this podcast, for this YouTube channel. You're right about that debt collection stuff. It was me, you, and Tyler Gibbons. We were the only three voices that I was able to even hear from in the community that noticed it. And without your help, without you doing what you do, I'm not sure we would have been successful in that. So thanks for that, and just really for being there and for reporting out the things that you do. We may line up on other sides of the aisle, but I really do appreciate you speaking up and showing what's out there in the community. And going back even further, I think we met we went to a church, and we heard school board members speaking for a race back in 2000 and I want to say 18.
Oh wow, yeah, that was.
So I think we met in person the first time.
That was in East Knoxville when Adam Brown was taking on Mike McMillan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
But yeah, I am Keith Britt, and I am running for 4th District, Knox County Commission.
So that's the seat that Kyle Ward has held for the last almost 3 years. He's announced that he's not going to run for re-election. So you're going to run for 4th District. That's the same district that Catherine Bike and Will Edwards ran for a school board last year, and Catherine Bike squeaked out a win on that one. So that district, according to the former mayor of Knoxville, who writes in the daily paper, he says that district is purple. So I'm sure you've looked. First of all, you worked at UT for a while. You worked at Regal Cinemas, but now you're a developer relations engineer at Voltron Data. I know that you're a dude that crunches data numbers. You're a nerd geek, right?
That is the 100% true statement. Correct.
So you've probably looked at the numbers. So I would say that a father of triplets, 4-year-old triplets, I might add, isn't going to get into something that he didn't think that he had a pretty good chance at winning. So just kind of talk about the 4th District, talk about the 4th District Commission and kind of your involvement into deciding to run for this seat.
Sure. Yeah, I am. You got my recent professional history dead on. Well done there. And yes, I am a father of 4-year-old triplets. And what I see in the 4th District is a lot of people that are like me. They're very worried about the school system. They're worried about flooding. They're worried about safety. They're worried about affordability. And they really don't have a whole lot of access or knowledge about what's happening in local government. And they're people that aren't lining themselves with political parties. They care about the issues and they care about their families. And that's who I am. I'm a Democrat for sure, but I am more than willing to work with Republicans on individual issues. And that's what I'm going to do when I get on commission. There's several commissioners right now that can't get the things done that really would benefit the community. And when I get on commission, I'm going to help them get those things done. Wow.
So, the commission has been interesting because, when the 6 ladies came on, of course, Dr. Lundy and Courtney Durrett, the 2 Democrats, along with Terry Hill, were the three Democrats, and then 3 other ladies joined them this past September. Kim Frazier at large, seat 11. Rhonda Lee from Mountain Halls and Powell, District 7, and then Gina Oster from District 3. So when those 6 ladies came together, I think, I was there, so I could say it because I was one of the 4 or 5 people that was sitting in the main assembly room when it went down. Everybody just assumed that Richie Beeler was going to wind up being the commission chair. And Courtney Durrett was able, first lady chair. There's been some lady vice chairs. My good friend Diane Jordan from East Knoxville was vice chair for a while, but the first Democrat female chair, first female chair, and then first Democrat female chair, because Tank Strickland and Billy Tyndall had been chairs before. But they were able to pull together and elect Courtney Durrett as the chair. And of course, the Republican women got a lot of heat for that. Which, if we're talking partisan politics, okay, give them heat for that. I was pretty quiet on it. I'm still relatively quiet because of my position as a state executive committee man. But it's not like you're electing someone to be the lead Democrat on commission, and the commission doesn't have Republican or Democrat caucuses. But I think it set a tone for commission in the fact that it's not going to be the way it's always been, but at the same time, some of the votes we see on commission are still going down kind of rubber stamps. So kind of you've talked about a few issues, but talk about what you'd like to see. beginning in September 1st of 2024 when you're the next 4th District Commissioner?
Yeah, well, I mean, the most important thing for your viewers and listeners to take notice of right now that I'm not going to have an effect on, but when I get on commission that we will need to still be addressing is what's going through the state legislature right now in terms of third grade retention laws. There's a 67% of parents out there are going to have to, at a minimum, jump through a lot of hoops to make sure their kid doesn't get held behind in school. And that is something people need to be contacting their state rep and their state senator about right now, because that vote is on Tuesday, and it could cause chaos in our school system. But that's not really a commission issue.
Back up real quick on that third grade retention, and if we wind up having to do two episodes of this, I don't have a problem with that. But third grade retention, when they passed that bill last year, as a former school board member, 2000-2004, when they passed third grade retention, because even when I was on school board 23 years ago, I was vice chairman of the Knox County School Board 23 years ago, 2002 to 2003. We were talking then about how we needed to get every kid up to a third grade reading level. Well, how you do that, because first of all, just to say we need to get everybody up to third grade reading level, that's great, okay? But the problem is that mastery versus, the bell curve, I guess what I'm trying to say is the bell curve on being on third grade retention is, it's as wide as the bell curve is. So, but let me just say that when I heard that the legislature, and they are my party, the supermajority, but when I heard they passed third grade retention, the first thing that came to my mind was, did they read the bill before they voted for it? But go ahead, Keith.
No, that's absolutely right, and you're right on that bell curve. Hitting 65% when the bell curve is at 50% is just crazy. If you're a parent of a KCS student right now, especially a third grader, you need to be contacting your state rep or your state senator right now, because we could see some serious repercussions in the KCS system right now. And I guarantee you, parents, there are kids that need some help, and the school board is there to help them. I would assume every legislator is there to help them. But what we have right now is a broken system. It's not the kids that are broken, and that we do not need the kids to be held back because we have a broken system.
Right.
Beyond that, going to commission, some stuff I'd really like to see done. You're aware of the Advanced Knox program that's going through the phases right now. I think it's about to enter phase 3, and Mayor Jacobs should be talking about it on WBIR on Sunday morning. So I'm not sure what his views are, but that is something that I'm very hopeful that will move towards more affordable housing, move towards matching infrastructure investment with housing investment. But if it doesn't, that is something that I am going to hold the commission's feet to the fire on, because what we're doing now is we're trying to build up housing so fast without infrastructure keeping pace that it's making the people that already live here suffer, and that's not acceptable.
You know what's funny about that is I went over to a meeting about I guess it was a week ago, this past Monday, over at the Maryville Public Library, the Blount County Public Library, which is in the heart of, well, it's actually Maryville, but it's right there on the Blount County Maryville line, right there in downtown Maryville. And as I passed the airport, I looked over to the left, and there's massive apartment complexes being built just past the airport as you're going into Maryville and Alcoa. And it occurred to me a few weeks ago when I was over there, I saw the first building, but they've already got a second building in addition to a couple of hotels. And it occurred to me when I drove by that, there's a brand new Food City. They relocated the Alcoa Food City. It occurred to me that if that's going on in Maryville and in Alcoa, what's going on in the other outlying counties? And we've heard my friend Hanson Sell, and I'll call him my friend Hanson Sell. He and I would probably agree and disagree on about as many issues as Keith, Britt, and I agree and disagree on. But I've heard the realtors talk about how we have a housing crisis. But when I sat down at that meeting and I looked at my friend who had invited me, and I said, how many new houses do you have going on in Blount County? And then as part of that meeting was the Blount County property assessor talking about how much building they have going on in Blount County. It's occurred to me that with all the building we're doing in Knoxville, we're not taking into consideration what's going on in the outlying counties. And at some point, we're going to build too much housing. Am I wrong? That's rhetorical, actually.
No, well, I don't think it needs to be, but I think you're exactly right in the fact that we aren't working as a community. We're working in our silos, and we aren't really paying attention on what's happening around us. We're doing that within the county, not just outside the county.
Right.
And that is a hit issue, and I will. You are absolutely right. I think Hanson Sell is one of the preeminent, smartest voices in this issue, in this area. More people should be listening to what he's saying.
All right. So so we got third grade retention, we got education, we got advanced Knox, which is housing. What else do you see going on out there?
Well, if you ever get an interview with him, I don't know if you've interviewed him before, but ask Sheriff Spangler if he's a friend of mine, and I bet you get a very clear and loud no.
That's interesting.
Myself and him and Gina Oster will team up to make sure that these sheriff's office employees are respected in terms of they're part of our community. They can afford to live in our community, not just serve it. Because the salaries for KCSO right now are not acceptable. The salaries for KCSO employees don't allow them to afford to live in. It's less than 10% of the active listings in the Knox area right now. If we're hiring people to serve in the most honorable position our county has to offer, and we're not paying them enough to live here, that's unacceptable.
Yep.
So I will be moving very quickly to make sure that their compensation catches up with what we're asking of them.
Yeah, he's got like 90, well, I may be confusing the vacancies with the sheriff's department with the vacancies with the custodians, but he's got like 300 plus corrections positions, I think, and he's missing about a third, which is actually about the same number that Knox County Schools is supposed to have on custodians, but that's an issue for another day.
That's absolutely correct. I think the last figure I heard for KCSO was 93. I think the last figure I heard for custodians was 95. So they're right in the same ballpark.
Right.
But beyond that, I'm absolutely committed to reducing violence and crime, and that goes to violent crime, gun crime, domestic violence, youth violence. One easy win that I hope happens before I get to commission is Judge Cerny has got this new veteran substance abuse court that I just think the world of, and he needs some very minimal funding to get some really big things out of that. Basically, line item transfers for some gift cards, and that is just something that we should throw at him.
Right.
I mean, if he can keep people from reoffending with a bunch of Chick-fil-A gift cards, that's what we need to give them.
Well, absolutely. You know, they Chuck Cerny obviously he had a good quality opponent this past year, and remind me her name real quick. Her dad was a state legislator, but Sarah Keith.
Sarah Keith.
So you know, Sarah was a good quality opponent, but Chuck Cerny, as our General Sessions Judge, actually, I thought he had been the longest serving General Sessions Judge, but he corrected me and told me that Tony Stansberry had been there a little bit longer than he had. But anyway, he created the Veterans Court, and now he's starting the mental health court. So the guy has a true heart for folks who offend, who may or may not. I mean, look, we all know that there's two different types of offenders out there. There's the offenders who they're just mean. They're going to offend because they need, for whatever reason, they're offending because either they have a drug addiction and we need to get that drug addiction or whatever that is going on fixed. So that could be through the drug court. And then there's also the mental health issue. And then you just got people who are just the 3-3-20 that are just going to be mean, and we just but he's correcting the mental and the drug court people, and in defense of Chuck Cerny, I mean, let's all remember we had a criminal court judge that started that drug court, and then it got some bad press, and so he's been able to revive it. So he was able to take something from the ashes and make it fly again. So kudos to Judge Cerny for doing what needed to be done on resurrecting that program and now creating a mental health court. So
yeah, and it seems very effective, and in the legislature's eyes, it seems very cheap. I mean, that seems like a low cost, high reward investment. Let's do more of that, and maybe let's see how this plays out with what he's got going on right now, and maybe we can extend that to other parts of the crime system. But more importantly, I think just the system of the criminal justice system being linked to short and maybe even lifetime service providers once they get out, I think is an excellent model for driving down crime, especially violent crime.
Right. Well, so what's the campaign look like? I mean, so we've already talked about the fact that for you, I'm assuming you may or may not have a Democrat opponent in the primary, but the primary is in March, so I'm assuming you won't have an opponent in the primary. And then, so you can, if you don't have an opponent, then you can kind of just knock on every door from January until August. But are you ready to knock on every door in the 4th District and get out there and do what you have to do in order to, I mean, obviously you were probably supportive of Catherine Bike and you saw her organization. So are you ready to spend the time to get out there and meet all the voters?
Yeah, what we know about what will happen in August is that I'm going to be outfunded. I'm not going to be able to buy as much ad time. I'm not going to be able to buy a bunch of mailers.
Right.
So I'm going to have to put into legwork. I'm going to have to meet people, and that's what I am going to do. I'm going to be at your community meeting. I'm going to be at your doorstep. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. It's 865-973-6944, and I'm going to be on the phone with people from now until next August, showing you what I'd like to do on county commission and making sure it aligns with what's right for you and your family.
Right. So you've already named a treasurer. So you're full blown. You're rocking and rolling at this point, correct?
Yep. I filed the paperwork. My press secretary is coming on board. I've got 2 lead advisors that are coming over this weekend. We are rocking and rolling. Yeah. So you filed your treasurer on March the 10th, and we're recording this on March the 11th. And it'll be up sometime tonight. So you're here. You are the 1st of March of 2023 in preparation for a primary that's going to happen in March of 2024, and then the general election will be sometime in August of 2020. Well, it's the first Thursday of August of 2024. So we'll. I guess it's still a matter of time. I know Jackie Rayleigh, who's the chief deputy of the property assessor, she's already come out and announced that she's running for property assessor. As far as I know, you're the first person to announce for county commission at this point. I mean, we know that Kyle Ward is not running for re-election, which is the seat that you're running for. We know that John Schoonmaker's term limited. We know that John Schoonmaker in the 5th District, which is the district that is just west of your district. We know that in the 8th District, Richie Beeler is term limited. That's out east. And we know that Carson Daly is term limited out in the 9th, which is South Knoxville, which kind of borders up to your east side, east side of your district. There's 7. We know that there's 7 races that are up for county commission. And so we know 4 people are not running. We know that Ward in your district's not running, Schoon in the 5th, Beeler in the 8th, and we know that Daly in the 9th is not running. I'm doing all this from memory. So we know that that kind of leaves up Daisha Lundy in the 1st, Courtney Durrett in the 2nd,
and that leaves Terry Hill in the 6th. And we know that Terry Hill's just finished up she's finished up, I guess, her first full term, right? Because she got elected.
Correct.
She got elected to a special term, so she finished up her first full term, which means she's eligible for one more term. Courtney Durrett's finishing up her first term, so she's eligible, and Dr. Lundy has finished up her first term. I think we can say with pretty good 100% certainty that Terry Hill, the vice chair of commission, will run for re-election. I think we can say for 100% certainty that Courtney Durrett, the current chair, will run for re-election. I've talked to Dr. Lundy a few times. As much as she's been through in the last 3 years, I wouldn't blame her if she said, you know what, I've aged 100 years in 4 years. I'm good. But jury's still out on that. So if Dr. Lundy runs again, kudos to her. But if she decides to exit and let somebody else have it, more, much respect for what she's had to go through for the last several years.
Absolutely. God bless that woman. I mean, yeah, it's been rough, but I pray that she does run again.
Right. Well, Keith, it's been good to have you on. Appreciate you reaching out. We will have you back. I will have you back. I say we. I don't know why I say we. It's like other than Kevin, my chief minion back here that never says anything. He just kind of stands in the background. Other than him, there's really not much of a we except for the dog. But I will have you back on. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I appreciate you allowing the Brian Hornback experience to be your first interview as a candidate. And good luck to you. And I'm sure we will be talking again in the near future.
All right. Well, thank you, brother. Keep doing the good work.
Appreciate you.